Welcome to Qlick, a podcast about your local people, property and places. I'm your host, Josh Kindred, podcasting today out of our Kindred HQ in the lovely and sunshiny Redcliffe. Welcome, Damo, Daniel Lyngcoln. Today we're joined by Daniel Lyngcoln, our CMO. He's Chief Marketing Officer at Kindred Property Group, and we're going to be chatting about all things people, property and places. We've decided to break into the world of podcasting, and the types of topics that we're going to be discussing this week are, and over the coming weeks with some very talented guests and some big names. We're going to be talking about...
You started with a big one.
We've started with the biggest, but we're going to be tackling some of the topics that you guys throw at us, and specifically going to get deep down and dirty with some of our special guests about themselves as people, but also what their property journey's been and the places that have meant something to them, the places that mean something to them, and we're going to go from there. So, Danny, we're going to do this live every Friday morning, so be sure to tune in.
Every Thursday, mate. Today's Thursday.
Thursday, sorry.
Yeah, so we're off to a good start here, Josh. So.
Yep. No. Today is Thursday.
And normally, probably, we'll probably start around 9, and then obviously publish later in the day. So. Yeah,
that'd be good. All right. So you want me here, ready to go at 9?
We work really good on ideal weeks here at Kindred. So obviously, being on time's really important.
Excellent. All right. So Daniel, I'm going to hand over to you. You're our special guest today.
Yep.
Have you got questions for me before we get started? Do you know what a podcast is?
Well, I was actually going to throw that to you, Josh. So, obviously, last year you did a lot of vlogs last year, which was pretty good. I think, over 100 video vlogs where you had Jordan, your, videographer, follow you around and really show, internally here at Kindred, and it did go external as well, like a daily vlog. So, I guess why have we moved to podcast? What's a podcast to you now, and what's it mean to, listeners out there?
Yeah, without giving you a boring story, probably 18, 24 months ago, we started to recognise that we were on a really steep growth trajectory. And for us, what a lot of that growth was in people. And something that 2 years ago was really easy for us was to, I wouldn't say easy, but it was something that was natural, was for me to be able to have really good relationships with the people in our business. And that created a layer of transparency. We had really good communication with one another inside our business. And as we grew from 10 people to 20 people to 40 people to 80 people, it was how do we keep that type of relationship with the leadership, with people that are coming into our company that we don't necessarily get to see every day or have a coffee with and spend time with. So, and sometimes the general chit chat that happens, when you're walking into the office with somebody, or you might say good morning to someone, you end up having a little bit of a deeper conversation and a relationship with them. And I wanted to continue that relationship with all the people in our business. And so that's where the vlog was born. And essentially the vlog was to say consistently every single day, hey, this is what our business is doing. This is what we're trying to achieve. So as our videos, we aim somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes a day. And Geordie, he's an absolute star, followed me for... it would be 200 vlogs we would have delivered last year, and everybody inside our business was able to understand everything that was going on. And I think as we continue to grow out to 5 offices, we opened coffee shops, did developments, all sorts of different diversification inside our business. It was still really clear for people to be able to see that there's people.
So that was really good. So obviously that was very, internal for our business and our people to understand. So is this podcast internally, or is this, for external? Is this for people to understand actually, what Kindred's doing and what's happening in the region? So,
yeah, as we've refocused over the last sort of 6 months, we've sort of said, well, internal culture is so important, but our internal culture is a reflection of what's really important to us to deliver to the community. And so we thought, well, how do we get that same transparency, that same message, that same community culture feel out into to the broader public? And so that's where the podcast concept was born. We wanted to be able to share the things that are important to us, and that's people, property and places. So the podcast was born, and certainly it's going to be an internal delivery for messaging and transparency and thought-provoking different ideas that are happening, but we're also going to be able to share that with the community, which we're really excited about.
Yeah, awesome. So if I was a person in the community and, what this that was last year, podcast looks like in 12 weeks, 15 weeks, what type of, good information are they going to really be able to tune into? Obviously, property is a big ground and backbone of Kindred, but surely it's not just going to be about property. We're not here to sell or just promote property. What else are they going to get from this?
Yeah, I'd say that, unless the listeners say that they want to hear about property promotion, there probably won't be a lot of that at all. I think that we learn so much from one another, and that's the beauty of community. So we're going to bring in people like Petra Sivanaseva, ask him questions like, why do you love living in Scarborough?
Are you going to ask him about the recent Origin results, or
we might leave that. We'll talk about those 10 years of glory. We'll leave this year behind. We don't want to sort of talk about anything that's too fresh. We'd like to talk about legacy there, Damo.
I'm pretty sure it's still fresh for a few Blues people in and around the office.
Yeah, we're going to let that slide, and we're going to go to a break. Do we have breaks? No, we don't have breaks. Right.
All right, so we've got Petro coming in.
But certainly we've got the likes of a Petro.
Who else would we be looking at coming in here?
Do you know, I'm so fortunate to, as the last sort of 4 or 5 years have gone, of being able to create some really cool relationships with people. The CEO of the REIQ, she's a fantastic lady, and to be able to bring in someone like that and share her experience, but also her insight to people, property and places is something that, the everyday community don't get to have that type of conversation. And that's what this is about, is saying, well, let's have the conversation that we would have around a coffee, but let's share it with the community. So stacks of really cool guests.
Awesome. Well, let's get in the first, podcast around people, places and property, and what better way to kick this off? And let's flip it over to you, and let's hear about Josh Kindred. Like, where are we sitting with Josh Kindred? You as a person, this place, Moreton Bay, what a beautiful area, Queensland, and I guess gives a bit of an insight on your property journey, whether it's outside of Kindred personally. Let's talk about Josh.
Yeah, cool. Well, personally, I love living in Moreton Bay. I honestly have been fortunate enough to do a lot of travel in the last sort of probably 5-10 years, and there's not a place that I prefer to live. And I've moved around a lot over the years as well. I've lived up in Cairns and all over southeast Queensland. Spent a lot of time in New South Wales and Victoria, but Moreton Bay is a really, really special community. It has so much, and we've got 2 young kids. So we've got a really great, I suppose, family connection to the area as well. My kids are 5th generation to the region. Yep. So for me, that's really important, that there's a little bit of legacy in this community, as I suppose other families have different versions of legacy.
So if we do have listeners from today, it'd be great. So tell the listeners, what does 5th generation Kindred mean? Like, do people understand, it's more than just a brand? I guess, like you said, it is legacy from around the area. Tell us what that means in Moreton Bay.
Yeah, well, my great-grandparents came to Clontarf. They came over the bridge, and my nan was born here, so she was born here in the 40s, and they had an incredible affinity with the community back then. I think through the 50s and the 60s, when females started to come into the workforce, Redcliffe was so detached from Brisbane and the actual city, so they had a clothing factory. It was one of Australia's biggest clothing factories right here in Redcliffe. And
out here?
Out here, and they were basically the biggest employer of women on the peninsula, and so that's a pretty special legacy, because a lot of those women were they were the mums of the families that were starting to build Redcliffe at the time, but they couldn't they couldn't travel all the way into Brisbane for work, so they were able to get employment locally, and that's been a big thing for us, even in our real estate business over the last 10 years on the peninsula, saying, well, how do we employ local people? That's been really important. So we've tried to follow some of those footsteps, but equally, I love that, it takes me 3 minutes to get from home to work, and that 3 minutes I'm driving along the waterfront.
It took a little bit longer this morning, but?
Yeah, no, I got lost and got held up, so I was a little bit late for any of those listeners. I'm getting a little jab here.
All right, so family, legacy, Kindred in this area. You talked about, Moreton Bay. You did touch on the community. So for a family man, like, what makes this place so special? Like we had a major event on the weekend, jetty to jetty. Are those the type of things that just make it an ideal place, to raise a family and I guess get involved in the community?
Yeah, and Danny, when I think about that, why are there so many great community events in Moreton Bay? Well, because there's so many great families that have been here for a long time that a lot of them are successful business people, but not all of them are. But they love this area so much and they want to be able to give back. And I mean, that's an example of the Newcombs, a really long-term family that have started Embrit and built Embrit and delivered those types of events where, we got 5,000-6,000 people doing a fun run around the
for any listeners
foreshore.
out there, Embrit, what is
so Embrit's Moreton Bay Regional Industry and Tourism, and for us it was as simple as saying that's a way that we can connect with the community in a different capacity. So jetty to jetty on the weekend was awesome. Yep. 5,000-6,000 people that ran around the foreshore with mums running with their kids, dads running with their kids, and I don't know, you just can't. It's a great spectacle for the region. And then again, we do the same thing again this weekend, where some of the older generation will take their grandkids down to the Redcliffe Garden Expo, and those types of events are on every single month in this region, and it's fantastic.
I can echo that. Obviously, I relocated from Cairns just under 2 years ago. Moved here with the family, and the major attraction for me to move the family here was the community and the events, the ability to be able to pretty much not have to travel over 10 to 15 minutes to go to an event because it's here on the foreshore nearly every time. The Kite Festival only a couple of months ago, spectacular 2 days, fantastic. So look, I think as a place, the community spirit and that event style is definitely is a big tick for me.
Yeah, and Danny, even like just the nature of being able to walk out of your house and be 1-2 kilometres to the beach.
Well, like you're at the marina there, so like literally, if you wanted to walk out and jump in, go for a swim, it's on the doorstep, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit scared of these days. I used to jump in the canals, but the bull sharks frighten me now. So I'm sure that'll be something I'm going to have to wrestle with my kids when they get brave enough. They'll be jumping in the canals. But so look, there's plenty of places where you can go and hang out with the kids, and that's just you can't say that anywhere else.
All right. So look, we've ticked a bit of the family man, the place. Let's talk property. Let's what's happening. I guess first of all, real estate, the real estate industry. What's happening in property at the moment that you're noticing, and any changes? How long have you been in the real estate industry for? And give us a bit of background there.
Yeah, cool. I started in real estate when I was 17, straight out of school, September holidays. The last holidays before you go to schoolies and get drunk and get loose. I secured myself a job in Cairns. A fantastic real estate agency.
That's a great place as well.
It is a great place. Certainly good for that age. Sorry, I was just reminiscing on my own there, guys. You won't know what I was thinking about.
I think you was picturing the wool shed if anybody from Cairns is listening in there.
And I secured that job in real estate, and I was signed up to do a traineeship, which meant that I could do my license over a couple of years while working in real estate. And I also signed up to do a law degree at the time. So I did about 8 months of a law degree at JCU up there in Cairns, and I think I went along to 2 lectures in that time. I just loved real estate. I worked 7 days a week, and I couldn't get enough of it. If there was an 8th day, I would have done it. It was as simple as saying, well, this is my future, this is my career. And I was really fortunate that I fell into that, and I worked really, really hard. I loved that it let me work straight away. I didn't have to. It was sort of almost on the job training. You're just dealing with people.
You were 17 and you worked hard 7 days a week?
Yeah, loved it.
Okay, no, it just sounds a little bit unusual for.
A little bit foreign.
Yeah, a little bit foreign for that. But anyway, we'll leave that for another topic for somebody else. But okay, continue.
Yeah, well, it's sort of job, and I suppose every job's a little bit the same. But for me, it was in their own ways. But it was whatever I put in, I could get out. So it was really a case of if I put extra efforts in, there was an incentive. I was progressing. And so university didn't feel like that for me personally, but nothing against university degrees. And after a couple of years, I'd done pretty well as a young kid selling real estate, which seems strange, but I'd done really, really well. And I decided to move back down to Brisbane. I got poached by a builder at age 19 and moved back down, and I sort of hit a little bit of a boom period. It was 2007 or 2006, 2007. The place was booming, and the reality was that at the time it wasn't easy for builders to keep up. And I was experiencing and exposed to a lot of people going through a lot of grief in the industry because of promises that people were being let down by. And I thought, in my probably the only way I can explain it, my own arrogance at 20, that I could do it better. I cared more about people. I don't think that that's true, but I thought that I did care about people more, and I thought, I'm going to go do this on my own. So started the real estate agency at age 20 in 2008, and here we are today. It's been an amazing journey. I was fortunate enough, I bought my first house in Burpengary. I went for the typical family home, 4 bedrooms, 2 garages, 2 bathrooms, 800 square metre block. I think I did the mowing once every 8 weeks. By the time the grass was over the knees, most of the youngsters will be able to relate if they've got a backyard. I was too busy partying and working, trying to get that right balance between partying and working. So first home was sort of having a big place like that probably wasn't sensible, but I certainly learned a lot. I learned a lot when I had to sell that to keep money going into the business. The selling process was really hard, and so that taught me a lot. And I suppose I've been part of the property game ever since.
It's interesting you talk about your first home being 800 square meters with a yard, mowing. Is that the typical home now? Like what are we seeing in the market trend at the moment? What people want to be buying? Because that seems maybe a little bit advantageous, a little bit big for what the common house is these days.
Yeah, I probably picked up my grandparents' advice: get the brick and tile house on a good block of land, and keep it for the next 20 years, and you'll be fine, sort of thing.
Well, you took the advice, but then
I took the advice, and I probably quickly learnt. It was sensible, but it wasn't aspirational in the way that I was trying to be. The way I give advice to youngsters these days is, and this advice is good for anybody because we all know first home buyers. I think of, I've got friends that are in their 50s that have got kids that are coming up to buying their first home. And I'll say this is good advice because you need to pass it on to your kids, but get a property that's suitable for what you're trying to achieve right now. If you're 20 or 20 to 25, you're trying to work out how to be an adult. You don't need the distractions of this big house and the big backyard and all those things. You're trying to work out, well, how do I maintain a career? How do I maintain a healthy lifestyle? How do I maintain relationships, adult relationships? So, not necessarily is the home that you'd want to have when you've got 2 or 3 kids the right one to have when you're starting out. So, I look back and reminisce on that as a really good learning experience. And I now suggest to a lot of our guys and anybody I meet to get something that's probably a good investment. Buy something that you can live in for a year and move out, and then you can rent it out. You keep the property. It's it's low maintenance, nice and easy. So that's the sort of advice I give, and I think developers are trying to cater for that type of property. We've also got at the other end of the spectrum, we've got an ageing demographic and an ageing population throughout Australia, but just as much in this Moreton Bay region, and so that's also suiting these low maintenance. And that's why I think Redcliffe's such a great place to live, because there are so many parks and beaches and places to actually go and experience your community. You don't need to do that in your own backyard.
Nice, mate. Anything else on property? What if we had to wrap it up on property? Anything else that you want to talk about?
No, mate. You ask the questions. I could probably answer 1,000 questions on property. I love it. But for me personally, we've bought all sorts of different property, whether they've been development, whether it's the building we're in right now, whether it's personal homes or homes for family members got a great affinity with property. I believe in it so much, and I think that it's such a tie back to us as a community and people and families.
Well, the great thing about these Qlick podcasts, we're going to have a lot more, I guess, people in that are going to ask a lot more questions around property, around finance, first home buying, downsizing, property market trends in and around the area. So I won't probably ask anything more today. This was a great introduction into, I guess, Qlick. A little bit of background on Josh Kindred. He's People, Property and Places. So I'll probably throw it back over to you to wrap this one up, and I guess thank everybody for listening. Hopefully we do get some listeners out there today, and go from there.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Danny. Mate, thanks so much for joining us. We're really excited about delivering a podcast, and I suppose we'll grow and learn how to make sure that our listeners are interested and that we're talking about things that are really relevant for them. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode, and you can contact us on Facebook or Instagram at Qlick. That's with a Q, Qlick Podcast. Or you can head to our website, qlickpodcast.com. You can contact us. Fresh podcast every Friday, vlog on Wednesday. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button and keep us in the loop. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks, mate. See you.
Thanks, Damo.